Ladies and gentlemen, we just want to invite you to just thank God for what God has done through the years between Kampala Baptist Church and Partnerships for Training Pastors. We have had an amazing journey. We have already talked about this in the past. You know, we've been able to train leaders who are training others. It's nice when you see the model of our Lord Jesus Christ in the ministry, where we train others who train others. And we can point to name after name of people that have come to be part of our training who are engaged in training others. For that, we are thankful to God. Two, that we've been able through the years to develop skills of the younger generation who are to be able to support transition. You know, sometimes the African church struggles in getting the older people to hand over to the younger. And sometimes one of the challenges is that the people who are supposed to take over are not equipped. So this whole idea of that God led us to develop of focusing on emerging leaders has been able to create that group of people that support the transition of the older generation. The third is that we've been able to participate in the developing of materials as if we work together to come up with materials that can equip other people. So I've been privileged to visit some of the churches and see how some of this material is being used in the teaching ministry of the church. The fourth thing that I'm thankful for is that because of bringing different people to come to study the scriptures together, there are networks, ministry networks that God has been able to develop in the different regions, but also across the regions. And so we know that there's strength in people encouraging one another and growing together in networking for ministry. And we know that's one of the things that we've been able to accomplish through the years, and we thank God for that. Now, this particular season of lockdown has brought its unique challenges and opportunities. I know that when the first lockdown found us in Tororo, where we are going for it must have been our third time of training. We were supposed to start, and we've beginning to focus on the emerging leaders in that region. And we got there in the evening, and that evening, in fact, on our way to Tororo, just as we approached Tororo, we had the news, and the president was locking the country down. And so in the morning, we met with the people briefly, and we got back in the car and traveled back to Kampala. That was almost felt like a wasted trip. But that connection was good as well. When the first lockdown ended, we went back to try to follow up. And this has been a beautiful experience to see new young leaders begin to be equipped. Now, of course, the schedules have been greatly impacted by the lockdowns, the first lockdown and the second lockdown. And we've been trying to figure out how to keep going even in the midst of COVID. We know, therefore, there was the need to try to invest in the recording, and we thank Pastor Dave, who was able to adjust to that, and so some of the teaching has been communicated through the recorded messages. Then the availability of tablets, particularly for the group in Oyam. And they, of course, are getting them to adjust to that new world, which has become a regular part of our world right now, has been something that we thank God has happened as a result of this ministry. The fact that we've been able to train different people has really given us a presence across the region. It's given us a presence in places we will never have been able to get to. When you see some of the trainings that have been done in Oyam, some of the trainings that are done in the Mukono region, some of the trainings that have been done in the Masaka region and beyond, really there is a testimony of what God has done in moving the training to regions we never have reached, because we've equipped people in those places, which is really in tandem with our Lord's way of working. He works with 12 disciples. We are beneficiaries of Jesus investing in 12 disciples. We know the Apostle Paul encourages us in 2 Timothy 2:2. You know, the things we've had to entrust to others will be able to teach others also. This spirit of 2 Timothy 2:2 is an ongoing experience for the ministry of Kampala Baptist Church because of our relationship with Partnerships for Training Pastors. Now, what have been the challenges of this season? Of course, the challenge of the season has been that the schedules have been challenged. The media uptake in Uganda is only really real in a particular class of our population. The more educated, the more city dwellers really can adjust to YouTube and WhatsApp and tablets. The more village people, it's a challenge. Now, of course, the reason we are working with the people in Oyam, for instance, to get into this culture is because this culture of doing things on YouTube and Facebook and WhatsApp on that kind of media is not going to go back. It's only going to go forward. So we really must equip that generation, that breed of leaders to be ready to move forward rather than getting stuck. Of course, some of them have been able to use the radios, done messages on radios, which has been good. Some of our trainees have been able to do teaching on radios, which is an option for people who are not on YouTube and Facebook. The other challenge that really faces our work is the challenge of material translations. You all know that this country has many different tribes and languages. So translating material in Luganda only gives you a particular population. Translating material in Luo only gives you a small part of our population. And now that we are going into Chiboga, where the focal group there is Lugbar, means we have to think about translating material in Lugbar. Again, that gives a small part of our population because this is a country with many languages. Now, so that's a challenge. Now, of course, the other challenge for this ministry is that we must continue grappling with is the whole idea of sustainability. We can equip a group of people to do training. We can facilitate that training. And now, once that person is going to do that training, how do they travel to the venue? How do they get? Where do they get the resources for that training? So, how to train in ways that can be replicated is one of the challenges that we have in our day and time. One of the things we have to think about is the future, therefore. How do we think in the future? I think as we think about the future, we have to pay a lot more attention to developing material and therefore identifying what our critical languages are going to be and making materials available in that language. So that's not a simple work because finding technical people who do material translations well, who are able to convey theological themes without adulterating them is not a simple thing. For instance, I cannot review materials done in Oyam. I can gamble a few sentences in Luo, but there's no way I can judge the integrity of a translation for Luo. I can't judge the integrity of translation in Uganda, but that's all. I cannot judge the Luo translation. So that's a bit of a challenge and yet a big need at this point in time. The second thing is that we must be thinking about in dealing with the future is as we train, we need to be thinking more of how do we cut training costs down so that the replication of training becomes more and more practical. Because the way we train people tends to be the way they are going to be thinking about how to train other people. So we need to be paying attention to that. That's a current challenge in my mind, in our minds, as we think about training for the future. The other way we must think is how to carefully select how to expand. Because we can't, then the training needs in our country are so many. But we have to carefully and selectively think about how to train in the most critical areas and how to train in areas that are going to make replication much more easy. Now, I've rambled on, but only to say that when we look back, we see God's hand in what has happened. We look into the future and we see opportunities for work. In fact, as Jesus said, the harvest is the very wide harvest. The laborers, we are developing laborers. So the work is still immense. We just have to stay focused and continue to empower God's church because it's for some reason the numbers of Christian leaders in our world, in our country, that teach authentic biblical truths is narrowing. There's a lot of prosperity. There's a lot of spiriticism that is a part of African traditional religion that is embedded in some of the biblical teaching in the churches and is not able to bring out the biblical truths the way they are. So the work is there. The responsibility continues. So we thank all of you who are participating in this on your side of the world. We know that many of you will never sit in a grassroots church to teach, but you know, by the engaging in creating resources, engaging in creating structure for partnerships, for training pastors, you are participating in what is happening in a grassroots church down in Oyam. Thank you for your work. God bless you. We appreciate you. We appreciate Dave Jones and his wife Joyce for investing in this work. One of my friends used to wear a T-shirt that said, the pay isn't much, but the retirement benefits are out of this world. God bless you.